Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with the Finding Yourself Book Club, and today we're going to talk about Dr. Gibson's Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents. We are on Chapter 8, The Art of Mental Clearing. If you like these videos and they provide value to you, please do like and subscribe. It really does help us little YouTubers. And check out my website. I'm at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can take my free life balance questionnaire and submit it for your first free consult. You can also just submit a contact form and I'll be in touch. The first consult is always free and there's no obligation thereafter. Thank you. Okay, so we were talking last time about the art of mental clearing and talking about, we ended with what it's like to have your mind limited, an exercise where basically you limit your mind because of your EIP's opinions and beliefs. And today we're going to start with, you don't have to think nice. Instead of teaching you to think, EI parents teach you to judge your thoughts. EI parents always turn thinking into a moral issue. They will attack their child's open, honest thoughts if they feel threatened. By acting wounded, insulted, or appalled, EI parents make it clear that you are only good when your thoughts are nice. It's crucial to realize that you don't have to think nice. There are no thought police, thank goodness, and you have the absolute right to think anything that occurs to you. Your original thoughts are a big part of your individuality and are necessary to solve problems with creative thinking. And then here she talks about Shelby's story, where Shelby writes a pretend letter to her parents. And in that letter, she's very open and very honest. And then she rips up the letter. So you don't actually have to send it for it to be therapeutic for you to write letters to people, especially if you are a bit conflict averse and you don't feel comfortable having those conversations, or you feel like they won't be received well. Just write a letter, put it out on paper, and then if you've written it in your journal, maybe you can keep it, or you can rip it up, or some people even freeze them or burn them. It's just a piece of paper. It won't hurt anyone. Just be careful if you are using fire. But what if they know what I'm thinking? Children don't realize they have mental privacy. And then Dr. Gibson goes on to say that this can be carried on into adulthood, especially if you've been made to feel that way as a child. She says, the remedy for this unnecessary fear of secret thoughts being known is to deliberately think freely in your EIP's presence. It may seem an odd thing to practice, but it can radically increase your sense of mental freedom. For instance, while listening to an EIP or EI parent, you might let yourself think things like, that doesn't make any sense at all. You are treating me like I don't know anything, or I don't have to believe that. By thinking your own thoughts, you push away their mental domination. You enjoy the fact that you can think whatever you want, and they will never know. Thoughts don't make you bad. Unfortunately, some people say that thoughts are as bad as actions. But I believe this is a misunderstanding of a moral lesson taken out of context. For instance, the teaching that thinking about something is as bad as doing it is not saying that fantasies are literally the same thing as actual behavior. It's simply a caution to think twice about holier-than-thou hypocrisy and judgment. We can't pretend that some ideas would never cross our mind because as a human being, of course they would. We have no control over what thoughts occur to us. It's only what you do with those thoughts that counts. Separate out your own thoughts from the clutter of inherited thoughts. If you grew up under pressure to think like your parents, you may now have to weed out their influence to discover which thoughts are truly yours. Which of your values come from your own conscience and which have been mindlessly passed along to you? Which thoughts are gold and which are clutter? Here's what my client Jasmine had to say about the difference between her true thoughts and the internalized criticisms of her EI parents. I've been hearing the critical voice lately and realizing it's not my voice. It's a voice I thought was mine, but now I'm separating myself from it and choosing something else. Now, when I hear a negative voice about myself, I realize it's not coming from me. When you think I should or I have to, stop and reconsider what you want. Now, I would say take this with a grain of salt. I mean, we're all adults and we have to go to work and we have to pay our bills, and it's not always what we want to be doing, but just think of consequences for what not doing a particular thing. And basically, the shoulds that are like, the kitchen has to be absolutely spotless because that was my mother's thing. It's like there's a level of clean that's good enough. Stuff that has no consequence, but you've put it on yourself as a should or a have to. I think that's what we really want to focus on here. There are things that we should do and that we have to do, and that's okay too. I mean, that's life, we're adults. But the unnecessary stuff is what we want to make sure that that's really coming from ourselves and not just passed on from our EIPs. Early emotional takeovers can cause depressive thinking. Making children feel guilty or ashamed in childhood promotes feelings of immobilization and depressive thinking. However, you can sweep away these disempowering states by realizing their origins in past emotional coercions by EI parents. Once you label depressive thoughts for what they are and where they came from, you can replace them with more realistic, self-supporting thoughts that strengthen you. I don't think that this is something that's very easy to do by yourself. I would recommend for this piece, if you have insurance, working with a therapist, talking with some close friends, calling a life coach to talk through it. But sometimes it's much easier to see things in another person than it is to see it in yourself. And so figuring out where your depressive thinking came from is something that might be better done working with another person, not just by yourself. And okay, so that's where we're going to stop for today. There's no exercise in this piece of it. Next time that we meet, we'll talk about anxiety and worry, and then self-talk as a way to achieve mental clarity. And that's the end of this chapter. So that's chapter 8. Chapter 9 will move into updating your self-concept. And then her books are usually 10 chapters. Chapter 10 is now you can have the relationship you've always wanted. So we're getting towards the end here. Very excited to be on this journey with you all. I will probably also cover the epilogue, so it will be chapter 10 and then the epilogue. And then the next book I'm planning on covering, which I'm studying right now, is Melody Beattie's Codependent No More. Pretty much everyone I meet is either a dependent or a codependent. It takes a lot, I would say it takes a lot of work on yourself, emotional intelligence work, to prevent yourself from becoming a codependent. And to be strong enough to be independent and not dependent. So very interesting stuff that we'll be diving into. Keep your eyes out for more. If you haven't checked out my Zazzle store, please do so. It's really cool. I have everything under the sun, from like air fresheners, magnets, Zippo lighters. Zazzle's pretty cool because it just lets you put your design on everything. So glad to hang out with you guys. Please do like and subscribe. And check out my website. I'm at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. Take care, y'all.